This is another title defense for the last style bender, which is now putting him in a different category altogether, man. You have to start talking about Adesanya as one of the greats because look at what he's being criticized for now, AJ. It's not robbery, close fight. No, it's well, that was boring. Oh, you had such a cool Undertaker entrance. You walked out with Cannonier's urns, and then you stayed at distance and leg kicked him for 25 minutes. You know what I mean? Like that's the critiques now. So it goes to show Adesanya's clearly doing something right. My question to you was: Jared Cannonier ever the right dance partner to ever make this thing competitive, to make this exciting, or did Jared Cannonier need to do more to give the fans an exciting bout? I felt like as a title challenger, he had a pretty relaxed performance here at UFC 276. What do you think?
Pretty relaxed performance, but you kind of you kind of expected from Cannonier. He's not the dude. He's not the Paulo Costa that's just gonna rush in and just be a madman going in there. But what makes Cannonier so nice about that is he isn't going to do that. He's that patient fighter. He's going to see his points and act right. He's a very calculated opponent. And I mean, against another calculated opponent, does kind of make for not necessarily an exciting fight for the casual fans. I wouldn't say a boring fight though by any means, man. If you're in there, you're watching what's going down. There's a lot of chess matches and reads that are happening and things you can see if you're actually looking for them that do make it an entertaining match. And you can see how the chess match, the 3D chess match is being in front of us played out. But at the end of the day, I don't really think Jared Cannonier was the best opponent for an exciting slobber knocker of a fight, and if that's what the fans were looking for on this one, you could have just jumped, you could have turned it off in the beginning because that's not going to happen, especially with Israel Adesanya. If he does have a dude in there, a Marauder's going to be, it's going to be a quick night.
Well, one thing that I thought was really interesting is I was reading on Twitter people saying that Israel Adesanya came into the UFC, right? He had a couple of good fights, and then he fought Kelvin Gastelum and had that back-and-forth 5-round war. And people are saying that's what bamboozled the fans into thinking this is how Israel Adesanya fought. But clearly, he is Anderson Silva-esque. He's less risk-taking than Anderson Silva, but he is very defensively sound. He is very dominant in terms of he controlled the footwork the entire fight, man. I mean, he controlled where the fight was taking place. He corralled Cannonier. He made Cannonier frustrated, made Cannonier decide, I have to clinch you up so I can get you close because it's so hard to get my hands on you. But AJ, this is actually something that Robert Whitaker had noted in the pre-fight prediction. He had said, it's really difficult to get your hands on Adesanya. And Whitaker, he's like, I think that I'm probably one of the best in the world, one of the best people in the world to get my hands on somebody. It's damn tough to get your hands on Adesanya. I don't think Cannonier can do it given how he fights currently. He's going to have to be a different guy, but he wasn't that different guy. So once again, man, let me just ask you, because you're saying, yeah, it was a relaxed performance. This is your one title shot. You're 38 years old. I feel like even though the flack is on Adesanya, Cannonier should have done some. You had to make it dirty. You had to give it everything you got. I just wonder, in your eyes, do you think it is so much more of a chess match in there? It's so much more difficult than what our eyes perceived from, sitting there in the bleachers and whatnot that Cannonier had to face, man, because the output wasn't great. The tenacity, I guess you should say, wasn't great. What do you think?
I think it's 10 times harder than anything we've ever thought about doing. You know what I'm saying? Like having that many lights on you, the pressure, and the champ, the style bender against you. And the first leg kick you throw, he checks it while still staring at your eyes, not even looking down at the kick. This dude, man, like the level of greatness that Israel Adesanya presents for his opponents is levels above anything they've seen before, and it's staggering, man. If you've ever met somebody who's a couple steps ahead of you in a sparring match or in a fight or in a game of any sort, it's kind of debilitating, man. You kind of sit back and wonder what's going down, and you resort to your classic inherent style of fighting, in which Jared Cannonier is not that dude who's going to push you up against a cage and just brawl you to the death, which would make an exciting fight against Adesanya, who is that counter striker and that sniper. So I just think the blame, sure, the blame, you can blame whoever you want on this one, but it doesn't really belong to either parties, if that makes sense. If you look at the style of fights that was going down, this is pretty, on par for what it should be.
No, you're absolutely right, man. And I think at this point, we're looking at title defense number 5 for Israel Adesanya. So like I said, you're entering rare air to a degree. But the question now is, was this ever really the Cannonier Israel Adesanya show, or was it placeholder Adesanya get a win, and this is the Alex Paeta show. Because, listen, obviously we're going to talk about that fight in a second. Clearly, now we have it lined up. The UFC has their dream narrative. They brought this dude in, said, oh, you knocked out Izzy, fresh blood in the middleweight division, skyrockets to top 5, KO Strickland, and now Adesanya says, Joe Rogan asked him a question, he just snatches the mic, and he's like, listen, we already know who's next. It's that dude, it's Paeta, X, Y, and Z. It's going to be interesting build-up, man, and I don't know. I just don't know, man, how this is going to translate because Israel Adesanya clearly is a world-class kickboxer, but when he got knocked out by a world-class kickboxer, even though it was competitive, he did have Paeta hurt multiple times. It was a back-and-forth affair. I just think that if you continue to just kickbox this dude, Paeta, man, it's going to have everybody in the world to hurt. Use mixed martial arts. It's literally the point. This is your advantage. It's a mixed martial arts. Nonetheless, AJ, this was a pretty sound performance by Israel Adesanya, man. There's nothing that I could take away that says, oh, man, this was a rough performance. He cited it as an off night. I just thought, as a counter striker, you need your opponent to engage. So when your opponent doesn't engage, it can be a boring fight. And it's as easy as that. You have anything else to put on this one?
No, man, that's the one. Is if your opponent, this is kind of Yoel Romero style of the fight, where everybody said it was a boring fight, but it was much more of a calculated chess match that you're watching. And if you're a counter striker and you're engaging to get the guy to come in engage to you, but he doesn't, it just makes for a rough time. So great fight all around. The pressure, yeah, sure. There's a lot of things going into this one, but it was a good fight nonetheless for Adesanya. And when you have people picking apart little things like that, that's how you know you're great in the game, man. Yeah. They're like, oh, it was a boring fight, blah, 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 like that. That's what you get mad about? Like, okay, we're cool.
Yeah. I mean, look at it. We both hit on that plus 125 decision prop. So Adesanya, I think at close was like minus 500. So clearly you made some money at that plus money right there on the decision prop. You're welcome for that one, folks. Now